So it seems to me these days that we can't have a game considered complete without some sort of obligatory multiplayer mode. This wasn't always the case. As far back as just last generation, we had games that were just single-player experiences, and that was fine. We didn't have people complaining that the game was incomplete or lacked replay value and they didn't bother with it. But to me, this is unfortunate because in this generation, we're seeing the death of the single-player experience. We've had guys like Phil Harrison from Atari say that single-player is on the way out, and from now on, everything will have to have some sort of multiplayer mode. And to me, I just think, why? Why do you need some obligatory multiplayer mode in every single game? Especially when Halo and Call of Duty and Gears of War and what have you already do everything you could hope to do in a multiplayer mode. Once you've captured a flag in Halo, do you really need to capture a flag again in Wolfenstein or Doom or any of these titles? No, you really don't. But yet again, developers have to persist with these multiplayer modes just to check some sort of imaginary box that says you need this or your game is useless. And then we get to really silly situations like Overlord having a fucking multiplayer mode in it. Have you played the multiplayer mode for Overlord? Did you even know that Overlord had a multiplayer mode? Chances are you didn't, because A, it was shit, and B, it was Overlord. Who the fuck is playing Overlord online? Now, don't get me wrong, I like multiplayer games. I used to play the shit out of Killzone 2 last year. I'm a bit of a fan of Call of Duty. I play Gears of War and what have you. But I don't need that in every game. I've got the games that do that. I don't need the same experience with a slightly different art style. And I think that there is a precedent out there that says single-player games can still sell. The first Bioshock had no multiplayer in it, but it was a success. Then we get to Bioshock 2, and the multiplayer mode just felt tacked on and shit because that's what it was. It was tacked on and shit because people were complaining that there was no multiplayer in a game that never needed multiplayer in the first place. And I just would like to see single-player experiences worked upon and encouraged. And I think gamers should encourage it with sales, of course, and developers should encourage people to enjoy them by making good single-player experiences, not harming them by concentrating too much on the multiplayer. I mean, if you've played Kane and Lynch 2, well, first of all, you have my sympathies, but second of all, the fucking single-player campaign in that game is like 3 or 4 hours long. In a game that is very story-driven and has these fantastic characters that were never fleshed out in Kane and Lynch 2 because they were too busy concentrating on a rather poor multiplayer mode. And we see this a lot with games these days, and I just think it's a shame, and I just think that we really shouldn't be saying things like, I'm not going to buy this game because it doesn't have co-op. Really? How many co-op games did you fucking play last generation? And how many games would be better last generation with co-op in? Not many. You didn't need co-op before, and you don't need co-op in every game now. Yes, the occasional co-op game is good, but you don't need it in every single fucking game. And this is what gets me with games. They seem to think that because something is the standard in one series or game, it has to be the standard all across the board. How many of those things are you going to fucking play? I've often used this example before, but with Streets of Rage on Xbox Live Arcade, a lot of people would have complained if it didn't have multiplayer in. But do you know how many people are playing multiplayer in Streets of Rage XDA? Fucking none! Because nobody really wants it. They think they want it, they say they want it, but they don't actually want it. And that's what I'm getting at. You don't want all these multiplayer modes that you say you want. You've got the ones you play, and that's fine, and if another developer comes along and comes up with something really good, that's fine as well, that's brilliant. Do a multiplayer mode if you want to, and if you can make it good. But if you can't, and if you don't want to, don't. Just make a single-player experience. They were successful before, they can still be successful now. And that's about all I've got to say on the subject. Thank you.